call our January 23rd meeting to order. And we don't have many people to welcome, but we welcome those of you who are here. And we're glad you're here. So the first item is the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of December 19th?
Approve.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the minutes are approved and they're great as usual. Thank you. The second item on our agenda is an action item. Request of Brian Freeman of Freeman Family Enterprises, LLC, to install rear lighting at 2237 Rivermont Avenue. Is someone here to speak to that?
He didn't respond, and his representative didn't respond either, so they're probably not coming.
Casey?
Yeah.
Do we want to discuss that?
So the application is to install 2 rear lights. This is the lighting that they've chosen. And it would be at the rear for the parking lot.
And it's required, is that what the application said, required by zoning? I think he said that.
It says if there's an under the building, that's required to be parking area.
Did I just dream that up? Or did I read
I thought I heard that as well. It was
Yeah,
required
okay.
for parking.
Is there any discussion?
Are they pictured in this picture of the back of the
Yeah.
building? I didn't see them.
No, so they're not existing.
They're not on there, okay.
Yeah.
Is anybody willing to make a motion to approve or not approve?
Does it, I didn't read the fine print, does it say what these are made out of? Is that like vinyl or plastic or?
Aluminum die cast. First sentence up, Eve.
Thank you.
It's rear.
Right.
I don't know how historic they look, but it's also at the back of the house lighting a parking lot, so.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to approve.
I second based on the guidelines at the rear of the
That's right.
building.
Yeah, it's at the rear, yeah. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion carries. The second item of new business is an after-the-fact request of Chris Carlson to replace windows and repair porches and stairs at 210 and 212 Harrison Street. Is that you?
Yeah, what's the protocol here? The last time I did this, I was on Zoom. So do I stand up?
We need you to come forward. Sorry about that.
Okay.
State your name and address and then explain to us what it is that you hope we will approve.
So my name is Chris Carlson. The property in question is, I don't have the parcel ID, but it's 210 and 212 Harrison. It's a duplex and utility on one parcel.
And you're welcome to have a seat.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, my fault.
And so this, as I mentioned, or I kind of alluded to, this is not my first time in front of the HPC. I've also owned another property in Garland Hill as well, but this one is undergoing some renovations. 95% or more of that is internal and significantly cosmetic. Then I did come in front of the board for a roof replacement. And this is a bit of an oversight on my part, admittedly. But we did replace the windows as some of the windows, not all of the windows. So it's a three-story building. We touched essentially the main floor, which is the second floor, the living space, and not all of the windows. Eve, I sent Eve a lot of the pictures. Do you have all those accessible?
Yeah.
Chance? And so, yeah, so you can see. Is it okay if I approach the board?
Certainly,
Okay.
certainly.
So, you can see our beautiful software over here. But we have replaced, this is the before and after picture, obviously. We have changed out, so these two primary windows here, and this is the bathroom upstairs. We have not touched these. And then in this particular exterior, this window here off of the main living room was replaced as well. And they are a vinyl product, and I've got a material sheet on that, but they were in a significant state of disrepair. And at some point, actually, the conclusion of this, I'd like to discuss if, if this is retroactive and we get to an agreement replacing these as well, because they are significantly inefficient, but then also unsafe. They're in stairwells. In these cases, they're in stairwells. And I've got some pictures where literally what is supposed to be wood is just caulk. And so, and in one case, on the 212 side, this bathroom window was actually, this one was completely, it's not hard to see here, I've got an interior picture, but was open about 2 inches on one side, was unable to close. And so between that and then so some of these windows, as you can see here, I've got the grid lines are the same. Every pane was taken to try and match the original cosmetics. But it's a matter of both efficiency and safety. Not to mention, in most of the cases in that living space, again, which was the main living floor, you couldn't egress out of the windows. You'd have to either break them. They were either painted or nailed shut, and so they were not functional. So, and then with the porch repair, you can see before and after. We've done tongue and groove. We repurposed the existing railings, and so this just simply came up and was replaced, and then we've repainted, which I've already gotten COA approval for, the paint color. We've done the exterior back to the same palette again. So and then again, this is the rear porch. What's hard to tell here is that rather than just use this existing, it's hard to tell, but there was a significant tripping hazard here. And so we just simply changed the design a little bit, but structurally brought it more sound. And then, of course, cleaned it up to the original paint color. This is just, again, highlighting the windows on the front elevation that you can see that were replaced. And it's a little hard to tell because I've got the blinds here, but the look and the feel was meant to be the same. And then also, yeah, if you don't mind. So this is some of the condition that I found the windows in. And that's where you put your hand to stabilize if you had to go down the windows, or going down the stairwell. This is an interior of the upstairs bathroom where you can see this is actually pretty good. But it was to the point where my tenants, when I acquired the property, I had tenants in here. Utility bills were running on that particular side about $450 a month, and we've cut that by more than half already with the updates. And then, of course, you can see some of the interior upgrades. Again, this is just to show the existing kitchen window. We've not changed placement or anything like that. We've just tried to do like for like as much as possible. Again, showing this is the interior dining room here. The style. It's just that these are now a vinyl product. Same with the living room. Both of those windows, and they all malfunction, of course, and they can be used for egress as well. This picture, I included in here in particular for illustrative purposes. There are 3 different windows in this, 3 different window types. You've got aluminum clad, which are, this is a 210 side, we did not change. We did keep those. And then the upstairs, somebody at some point did update those. I couldn't find an on-file permit for that. And this is the one that we did change because, again, that was some pretty bad shape. What you can't tell from these pictures is that by this point, the roof has already been replaced and the gutter work has been redone to code. Go ahead.
The two on the second or first floor are 4/4 for the pane. What are the ones on the second floor? I can't really see if it's 4/4.
They're
1/1?
just I don't know if you call it casement style or not, but they're just two.
So 1/1.
1/1, yeah,
Yeah.
I guess is the point, yeah.
Okay.
And I'm not even sure what the materials were because I inherited that. But the entire upstairs is of a different material entirely, except for that one bathroom window in the front, and then, of course, the one that I replaced in the stairwell.
They look aluminum, maybe?
I'm sorry?
Are they aluminum, or is that a storm on it?
They are an aluminum window, but I'm sorry, they're a vinyl product, I believe. I'd have to go back and look. I'll be honest, I haven't spent as much time upstairs recently.
Sure.
But they are different, and I am concerned about their function a little bit. I have not touched them to date, but as part of this discussion, I'd ask, if we can get to an agreement on the product that I've selected, I would like to finish out the property and bring it all up to a safe standard. This is the material sheet for the Polaris window product that was selected. It was done it's put in by a local vendor, and I don't have their name on hand. But it was put in a couple months back.
The panes on the ones you put in, are those the type that sit between the two, not paint, I'm sorry?
Yeah, mullions.
Mullions. Those sit between the two panes of glass?
Are those the grid pattern?
Yeah, yeah.
They're inside the panes of glass.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can see how one contrasts
That's
with
kind
the
of,
other.
yeah, thank you. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
So Eve, is the material, words we're seeing, are they fiberglass windows or vinyl windows?
They're vinyl.
Eve, can you put a photograph up that I took, if you've got it there? Yeah, you can see that the bottom is the original, I take it?
Yeah.
And
Yes,
then
sir.
the top is
Yes, sir.
what you put in.
And is there a screen, I can't tell, is there a screen on the new window as well, or is it?
There is.
There is, okay.
There is.
Okay.
Of course, removable, but yeah.
So I don't know if you guys want me to start or what. I wish,
Here, I'll have a conversation.
right, I really wish we could have started this conversation a few months ago before you had put them in. I can't recall ever a time, and my memory's not perfect, that we've allowed vinyl on the front of a house.
You have, actually, in 2014, I have the article, it was 323 Harrison Street, where there was precedent set back in 2014. Robert Muzek.
Yeah, I wasn't on
brought
then,
before the
so
committee.
that's why I don't remember.
Yeah.
And actually, each case is taken individually.
Yeah, we
That's
don't
right.
set a
No, I'm
precedent.
just answering the question.
No,
Yeah.
well, it wasn't a question, it was a statement.
Yeah.
In the time that I've served, I don't remember a time that we've allowed them on the front. Even on the side and the rear, it's very infrequent. It sounds like there is a case rather, where it was allowed.
But the guidelines say,
Yeah.
Yeah, they say no vinyl on the front, and yeah, it says,
My neighbor across the street was cited by the committee for having vinyl windows, and he has now changed them out to wooden.
I know we did that on, I think it was Madison Street in Diamond Hill. I don't know if that's your neighbor, but I know we've come across that before.
Yeah.
Speaking for myself, it's not something that, I think, well, they don't match, but it looks good in that they're new. but it doesn't look correct
Right.
for the house and the neighborhood and the architecture and, yeah.
Well, they stand out as new and
For sure.
not in conformity with the style.
And a concern would be approval will have, that's a continued request for vinyl, and we understand why, but it isn't in keeping with the guidelines, unfortunately, for the front.
Did you ever give thought to making the shutters the same size as the window? That kind of, that's not a violation or anything, but it's just, it really struck me that those shutters they don't work.
I'll tell you what, if we can get through this discussion, I'll go ahead and make that change.
I like that negotiated
So,
through it.
I'll make a deal.
In favor.
Well,
I have not, but yeah.
And also, these are just my comments. You have 9/9 panes, and the house was built in 1882, which is high Victorian. And 9/9 is a very colonial window arrangement. That's my thought.
Understood, and what I didn't realize, I mean, we purchased this property, I think, a year and a half ago, and we've been just trying to get through the renovations. I had a contractor pass away on me in the middle of it from COVID, but apparently there was a fire in this unit, and a lot of the stuff that I'm repairing inside is left over from that particular situation. They did a lot on the electrical and some of the major systems. The electrical and plumbing, I believe I found some permits, but just the function of some of these things it had to be, I'm not even sure, we inherited with tenants, I'm not even sure how the city allowed them to inhabit them at that point, I'll be honest with you.
Do you still have the original windows?
I do not. Otherwise, I'd document that too.
The guidelines make it, again, I want to reiterate what people have said. I wish we had this conversation a few months ago before we made the changes. The guidelines are very clear about this. I'm sympathetic to anyone who's taking on any challenge to redo a building, but it is an historic district, and there are guidelines that are established, so.
Do you have that picture I took, Heath, or not?
Yeah.
I think that shows a real contrast
You
between
can
the old
yeah,
and the
you
new.
can definitely tell.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Looking at it,
just
that
one
it's-
over there,
yeah.
so, yeah.
It really changes the feel of
Yeah.
the front of it. So to see them all replaced in vinyl would be a real shame.
The best case approach is always to repair what's there. And the pictures that you had were pretty telling of the condition. And when they are basically gone, they can be replaced. But, to match into the guidelines, the type of window that it's in the house, the mullion spacing, sizing, et cetera, is why the historic guidelines are there, to try to keep the building of the era that it was built and in the neighborhood, contributing to the neighborhood. And the vinyl windows just, are just across the board, wrong windows for a historic neighborhood. Some of the historic districts we've found are approving fiberglass now. I think we've had one case of those recently, but the fiberglass, the vinyl ones are just, they miss it on multiple levels in terms of their sizing, et cetera, longevity. The old historic windows have been there forever. Clearly, these weren't cared for very well, and the rod is, I think you have a viable case for replacement, given the photographs that you have, but it's just appropriate replacement. If some of those have come in, I think you noted aluminum clad. Are they?
The ones in the back are, it's, I guess what maybe you call it a storm window, or it's an overlay, right? So you
Yeah.
can't open the window.
Yeah,
There's no
yes.
airflow.
Storms are appropriate in the district, both inside or outside, either one could happen. But when you pull the window completely out and put a new one in. It needs to be more in keeping in terms of the sizing, mullion sizing, et cetera, to match the existing. And the guidelines give, they can be wood, they can be aluminum clad, et cetera, but the vinyl ones just miss it completely. The porches look great.
Porches look great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
An attaboy.
Thank you.
Yeah,
There was one that was pretty bad. It had like a 15-degree list, and
Yeah.
that's the one we actually aren't able to put back up yet because of our,
Yeah, reusing the rails, I think it's wonderful, but the windows they just don't meet the muster.
so how do I go forward, I guess, is my question.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the porches as requested, the changes to the porches, and then deny the window installation. And then once you select a new product, you'd have to come back and get approval for that.
Okay, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not changing the windows that I've got in there. It's too cost prohibitive. I'll get a quote, I'm happy to come back in front, but, that's, you gotta understand my position. I'm trying to come in and pump a bunch of money into the economy here and bring that utility into the neighborhood and make it safe but cost effective. And I don't see a way to do that with this decision. And so I'm trying to find a balance with the city. If you guys want me to bring the money into the community, you gotta help me out too, right?
Bottom line is, you're in a historic district. Nobody made you buy a house in a historic district. The historic guidelines have been in place for decades. It's a given. If you'd been here to start with, and making the application, we would have, been happy to guide you along, let you know of, but the guidelines are there for the taking.
Yeah, I second
And
the motion.
we can't speak to your compliance or not. That's going to be a city issue.
And it is our job to enforce the guidelines for people who already are there, who bought property because they respect historic properties that they purchased. So is there a second?
I second.
Yeah, it was a second.
It's understandable. If I can just add one bit of context, I mean, I owned 209 Madison up until a few months ago as well. And I just sold that. And the interesting thing with the windows in that is that they're completely inconsistent again. There are vinyl products in there that I inherited, and I don't see a permit on that either. And so I guess I would ask for consistency in some of this stuff in calling violations.
So that house was built in 1800s. I don't know when the vinyl was put in. I don't know if it's in the front, the side, or the rear. Maybe it was done before that was in a historic district. I couldn't say. If it was done after, it was done without a permit, but it wasn't caught. This was flagged by somebody in the city, so it's been identified, and that's why it's being addressed now. But we know who did it, we know when it was done, where 209 we don't.
It's fair. I can take that back, for sure.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
And I just wanted to note if there are any changes with the windows. I know you had briefly mentioned the shutters, but that's a separate issue as well. So don't change the shutters unless you come before us for approval first.
That's fair.
When in doubt, ask permission.
That's
And I
fair.
guess Eve will obviously yield to you in terms of next steps, in terms of city compliance.
Yeah, I'll send you an approval for the porches and a denial for the windows, and then we can discuss your next steps.
And we would love to work with you. You know, we want to work with people who are doing good things in the historic district. So I hope you will.
I appreciate
come
it. I
back.
mean, it's been an interesting learning experience for sure. So, all right, well, thank you for your time
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Wish you.
and listening to my challenges on some of that stuff, so.
All right.
Is that something we just do over email?
Yeah, I'll email you in the morning.
Okay, sounds good.
The last item on our agenda is a very exciting thing to me, and that is a discussion of the recommendation for the Lower Basin Historic District 2023 boundary increase. for the National Register, and Eve, I'm not really sure about, after I read 66 pages, what is our
Okay,
role?
she read all 66 pages.
Well, some of it.
Skim and
I did
scan,
not
okay.
read the footnotes, but I went by them. So, what is our role?
So, as the HPC, you have the opportunity to voice any concerns, any comments, anything that you would want to pass on to DHR for their consideration. The process for this is, right now, it'll come to us for comment. They will have a public hearing on February 15th for the general public. And then they'll take all of the comments, if they receive any other letters or comments, they'll take all of that into consideration at their board meeting on Thursday, March 16th. And at that point, they will decide whether or not to list the expansion on the national registers.
I wasn't sure who has requested the expansion.
So I believe it was Dutton and Associates out of Midlothian prepared the nomination. We're not sure at this time who asked them to do that. It wasn't the city, so must have
Somebody
been
paid
somebody
them,
who
though,
owns a property down there probably.
Okay.
Why wasn't it included in the original parcel? I mean, those buildings have not been built recently.
So they've had actually 2 expansions since the original historic district, so I guess either more information came up or more interest in nominating the area. I'm not sure why they
I don't
didn't.
think anything's been built since 1940 down there. I mean, it's old.
One in 59 is in here, but I don't know either, but there might have been some pushback from some of the property owners down
Well, the
there,
railroad, yeah.
because there was pushback to,
Might
I
restrict
think,
what they
every,
could do.
yeah.
Yeah, but again, it was probably the original district was probably established. Owners X, Y, and Z said, hey, we'd like to use tax credits, let's get a district here. And they just said, we want this. And now over time, the adjacent owners are going, hey, wait a minute, we can get HTCs as well, let's expand it to here.
Yeah.
I've worked with owners in the past on doing expanding historic districts simply because of the historic tax credit availability.
So this was the original
Yeah.
Lower Basin, and then this was one expansion, and this was another, and then this
Like a
is,
gerrymandered district,
let's see where the map is. So this will be the
further
expansion.
south.
I think they want to put a hotel on one of those properties. It's
Really?
right on the water,
Ah.
just past
One of
30
the
miles.
interesting things is if you remember, I don't know, when was the master plan, that updated master plan for the city about a year ago
Which one?
was approved, the one that Hill Studio out of Roanoke worked with the city on, and yeah, there was all kinds of things in terms of downtown activities, riverfront activities. And one of the recommendations that was in that, if I'm remembering, approved report, was a reworking of the entrance to downtown. Instead of having to come through the bottom along Concord Turnpike, the goal is that you'll come, I guess it's around the old landfill, and come in via Main Street onto
Oh,
Main
really?
Street.
Wow.
That there's an entire new entrance to downtown, as opposed to having to come by the landfill,
The water plant.
the water treatment
sewer.
plant, industrial sites. So this would be working towards that. So when that happens, activity along here would be available from a historic tax credit standpoint. So it would, again, as you noted, trying to encourage development. So this may well be someone thinking long term.
Yeah,
I
great.
don't know when that master plan, I don't know what phase, I'm assuming that's a second, third, fourth phase. It's obviously a down the road activity,
Yeah, I remember that now. They bring you up off of, yeah,
up and around and connect
Yeah.
into Main Street.
forgot about that.
Well, when this is filed with the National Park Service or whoever, whose name is on it? Who's making the filing? Just the Virginia Historic?
Through the Department of Historic Resources.
It's through them, but who, I guess the government doesn't care who's asking for it?
It's not through local government, it's not like a local historic
right.
district, so, we can send our comments in, but it's managed through DHR. So I think what you're asking is, can anyone nominate?
Well, individuals can nominate their own home, I guess,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but I don't know. I'm
Yeah,
just
but I mean-
envisioning the railroad, but the railroad wouldn't want this, I wouldn't think, with the restrictions that come with it, but
Well,
there are
really-
tax
Yeah,
advantages.
The reality is, there's no restrictions.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the only thing that it would restrict you from doing to your property is it continuing to be a contributing building. As a National Register and a DHR historic district, there's no strings whatsoever, there's only carrots. If you renovate and do an adaptive reuse, you can get historic tax credits. But they cannot say, you cannot paint it purple, or you can't tear it down.
Yeah.
Now, if it becomes a local historic district, then then the local historic district can say, no, we're not gonna give you a demo permit.
So they better hurry up and put in
Or
those
black.
final windows before it's too late.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
So if this goes through, it's regulated by National Park Service and not our regulation.
Right.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
It's more of an honorary status than anything
yeah,
else.
until it becomes a local historic district. Yeah, we would have no oversight.
So do we need a motion to say no?
Purely comments, just anything you would feel that you want to share with DHR. If there's nothing, there's nothing. If you have something, then great, but.
We can, as a board, make a motion in support
Yeah, I
of,
think
Yeah,
we
that'd
should.
be
How far back, I don't know if I can tell from there, and I forget the name of the road even, or where it changes to Concord Turnpike. Is it just along Concord Turnpike, or is it streets above it?
It comes,
So
No,
Concord
it's right next
Turnpike
to the
is
river.
right here,
Okay.
and then it would incorporate the railroad, part of.
I'm trying to think of like what buildings would be impacted in there.
Oh, I don't know if they're even used.
the old foundry administration building that's covered in graffiti right up against.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that,
Yeah, let's see, they do list.
There's a number of,
and the paper company
16,
is
yeah.
active.
Oh, it is in
so
there?
It's in there, yeah.
in the building that just had all the Mark Smith cars,
Cars.
auction
Yeah.
sale, that building.
Okay,
Let's see, they did include
the
some
whole foundry area.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
old
Yeah.
foundry site.
And doesn't it come up so
It's
that
one of the brick
RA's
buildings,
is in
it's already
there?
there.
Yeah, it goes all the
And
way up to
Diamond-
RA
It goes
Bistro.
RA Bistro,
Oh,
Diamond
okay.
Hill Animal Hospital. So that would be great, Fairby Johnson. It'd
Yeah.
be great for them.
So those
So
two
would
brick
you-
buildings that are sitting, did you just go by down along down along Concord Turnpike? The one the plumbing company is in, and the other one has been sitting empty.
Debbie Johnson, the empty ones I read somewhere that somebody was inquiring about a hotel there.
Well, the problem with the empty one
Probably took
is
less.
that it is not just in the floodplain, but
Right.
it is in the floodway.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
So,
Who's put
it's
money in that?
easy to get around the floodplain, you just can't have residential on the first floor. You can have commercial spaces, because they can flood. But when it's in the floodway, you have to protect the building from a floating railroad car.
Oh, my word.
So in essence, you have to build a dam in front of it.
Yeah, no kidding.
You have to protect it from from floating debris coming down river,
Projectile.
because it's so close to the channel.
Yeah.
It's a huge detriment. That's why the building is sitting empty
Yeah.
for, 10 years now?
Yeah.
It's certainly exciting. It would be nice to know who asked for this.
Yeah, it would.
But of course, I'm very much in support of it.
So do we want to make our,
Seal of approval?
Yeah.
our motion to approve as
We'll just
historic preservation
put our
partners?
support behind.
Yeah.
This is the first I've heard about this. Has it been in the paper, or has there
Not-
been any
Not yet.
publicity about it?
So the first that I heard was I got an email from DHR asking for help setting up a public hearing.
Yeah.
So they will be advertising in the paper, and then also sending out notification letters to everyone in this district and then 200 feet surrounding it. And then I think that's all they're required to do, but it'll definitely be advertised.
So who would you like to make the motion?
Should I make a motion that the HPC support the application to expand the historic district boundaries as shown in the yada yada?
That application.
It's what we know how to do, make motions.
Is there a second?
We have wonderful craftsmen.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Unanimous.
Yeah. So it is exciting, so really. All right, our next regular meeting is February 27th. There must be a holiday on the
President's Day.
President's Day.
President's Day, okay. Is there any new business? Old business? So I would like to ask the question, if, as was said, he will not replace the windows, what happens?
He says he was.
So he
He will?
have 15 days to appeal.
Yeah.
If he wants to pursue that, he will have to go to council as a public hearing item. So it's kind of dependent on him for the first 15 days, and after that, we will continue to pursue our notice of violation that's in effect.
If he does go to council, is it possible to have information about the house he talked about that has vinyl windows?
His other house?
No, when he said we had approved vinyl windows for somebody in the
Oh,
300 block.
yeah, I can.
2014,
do
that's
that.
what he said.
Yeah.
It was in 2014.
Yeah, the 300 block.
That was the house he used to, I don't know if he said an address. I know he said a year.
Okay,
I can ask him, if
Okay.
it's not in the video, I can ask. and
okay, I
get
think
that.
that would be important if we go to council to have some background. Any other comments, questions? No, thank you, and we're adjourned.